entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
All right, and welcome back to Wednesday morning. It's morning dash time. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We're going to continue our top 10 video game console games. We're on PS1 today. Can't wait to go over that. We did a little post yesterday on social media, Facebook, asking what some of your guys' favorite games were. Let's see if they made the got a little sticker on my shirt. Didn't even know it. Let's see if they made the list. Had some pretty good ones on there yesterday, and I'm sure some of them made it from me putting the list together. But I hope everyone is having a great Wednesday morning. I know that lots of kids are back to school, so for those of you that were waiting for the kids to go back to school to go eat and do what you wanted to do, now's the time. We're starting back to school tomorrow, Thursday. I homeschool the girls, so we start tomorrow, and so that means Morning Dash will now be moving to midday dash. And so we'll go from there. But let's get started. We're talking about PS1 today. PlayStation 1 games. PS1 been around, that was one of the very first game consoles that I bought for myself. After as growing up. This was one that I actually bought for myself, like my PS or my Nintendo and all those. Some of those my parents helped buy, but the PS1 I actually bought for myself. Yay! I was a grown adult. I could do things. Just kidding. So we'll bring those up. And, as you know, there's lots of PS games. We're now on the 5th generation PS5, and this was PS1. Mid 90s when this came out. Still playing Sega, still playing Nintendo. I actually had all three of them, Sega, Nintendo, and PS1 in my house at the time. I even had the Sega channel. I don't know if any of y'all remember the Sega channel was offered through cable TV. You could hook your Sega up. The cable guy came out, hooked it up to your Sega, and then you could play games on Sega. You just had to, I think it was like 99 cents or something like that to rent a game and play. I can't remember the exact price, but that was pretty fun. Some of these stations, I never understood why some of these consoles never had an actual, and they might. I don't know. I don't. It's been a while since I've been on that. I know you can download digital copies now. You don't have to go buy the hard copies, but we'll see. So we're getting into the list. Coming in at number 10 for me, Rebels, Star Wars Rebel Assault 2, The Hidden Empire. You could do just about everything in this game, from flying all the different aircraft, X-Wing, B-Wing, A-Wing, Y-Wing. You're a Rebel pilot going through trying to take down one of the first games I even bought because it had the Star Wars name to it. PlayStation had lots of great Star Wars. I know they had Phantom Menace and some other. I want to say Dark Forces was on here for PS1. Some really great games, but I loved Rebel Assault 2, especially because it was one of the very first Star Wars games that the piloting looked real. The flight and the aircraft. It wasn't like the Atari and the stand-up arcade game. So that was pretty cool. Coming in at number 9, we got Siphon Filter. This was one of the ones that made the list that you guys talked about. Secret Agent, Siphon Filter. Great gameplay. More along the lines, not a lot different than Metal Gear. You had Metal Gear Solid, but Siphon Filter, same premise per se. But then I think you got books, you got novels written after Siphon Filter. 989 Studios was this one. They had some great games in the early PS. Just a high-tech science fiction, fantasy, spy game. Pretty good. I enjoyed it. There was probably a good month when I first bought this, a good month that I did nothing but play this game. I never beat it I never beat it quite fast enough, I should say. I did beat it, but it took a long time. I'm not as you'll see, I like these games. I'll never confess to being the greatest at these games. And so that being said, coming in at number 8, NASCAR 98. Again, but finally, on the I think it was on the PlayStation. We had not PlayStation, Super NES or NES or Super NES. We had Days of Thunder, and with PlayStation, we finally got a realistic NASCAR game. This was at the height of my own NASCAR fandom. Jeff Gordon was one of my favorite drivers, so you could you could limit the laps that you did at each, or you could play the full amount of laps at the racetrack. Only on the short tracks. I think I tried Talladega once, and you had like 199 laps or something at Talladega, and I was like, I am not sitting there playing because it takes a while. But I did. I think I did half on most of them, except for the short tracks. I played the full amount of laps. Damn it, you got damaged. You had to make pit stops. You had to qualify. This was a really good game. I like the driver's view. You could be in the cockpit, or you could have the behind the car. And I just like behind the car because I'm not good with the whole cockpit scene. So coming in number 7, NCAA Game Breaker. They had they had a NCAA football game for EA Sports, but it didn't come till later. Game Breaker was the very first one you got on PlayStation. Again, limited to the amount of teams that you could play. It was whoever was in the top 25, I think, and then some other teams. But I was a big fan of Eddie George when I even because he was in college at this time. Eddie George. I'm not a huge Ohio State fan, but I was a fan of Eddie George. I just thought he was a great running back. And so I played with Ohio State a lot on this game because Oklahoma wasn't on there right away. I think it wasn't until later on down the line that you actually got to play with Oklahoma in a college football game. Again, at this time, this was before the Bob Stoops era. We were still going through some down times. So you only got to play with like the big powerhouses at that time in the 90s. I think Nebraska was on there, Florida State, almost all the SC teams was on there. But I played with Ohio State. It was pretty fun. You could keep track of your stats. This was the first time that I got to keep track of my actual stats of my rushing yards, passing yards, things like that. I'm a huge stats guy when it comes to playing college football. So I like that. Next, we've got Dino Crisis. Fantastic game. At the height of this was another Resident Evil style played game. You had to collect things, put them in your pack, solve mysteries. Instead of fighting zombies, though, and this one you're fighting dinosaurs. I think it was right around the Jurassic Park time, and you're fighting dinosaurs, solving mysteries, going through the puzzles, and trying to reel up who let the who let the dinosaurs out. No, I can't do that. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool game. I almost forgot about it until we were talking about it. I was like, God, that was such a good game. We brought it up, but now I have to go on the hunt for this. I have to find this in case and hopefully in case and get it again for the PS1. Next, we got Metal Gear Solid. This was off the NES. We had the original Metal Gear in NES. This gave us Solid Snake, the real a great backstory, leading us down the road to I mean so many different Metal Gear games. I think they revamped this a few years later, but yeah, you were just Solid Snake is one of the best spy games still to this date. Sad they don't have a movie on it. You're going through trying to you trying to solve things. You got your communications pack where you're talking to Wolfhound or Foxhound, Foxhound, and Otacon, and all those guys are on there. You got to they'll tell you to set your transmitter, and and if you want to talk to them, you got to set it to the right one. And I just loved it. Metal Gear Solid was a great game. I did have this. I have to check. I have to go check. We have some stuff in our area where we store some of our stuff. So I have to check if I have that one. Next, Mortal Kombat Trilogy. This was for PS1. This I think had 1, 2, and 3 for the Mortal Kombats. As you can see, you have all of the characters in there. You didn't just have to play with MK1, MK2, and MK3. You got all of them in there. What can I say about Mortal Kombat? It's still one of the best fighting games to date. In my mind, it's the best fighting game. And there's been lots to come after it. Tekken, things like that. But Mortal Kombat, Tekken was a good game on PlayStation. I just didn't like it as much as I liked Mortal Kombat. I think I like the more realistic looking people, the mocap, and the actual, kind of can tell that there was actors in there instead of just cartoonish at times. Doesn't take it away from it. I love it. Coming up next, we got Twisted Metal. Driving around, shooting cars. You got an insane clown. Who doesn't hate clowns? I hate clowns, by the way. But yeah, you're driving around, shooting the cars, destroying cars. Just a basic demolition derby with guns. You can upgrade your cars, put stuff on them. And I loved Twisted Metal. They've got a television show. I think it's on NBC or Peacock, starring Anthony Mackie and Nev Campbell was in there, I think. Samoa Joe is the clown. It's a great show. Coming in for me at number 2, Jet Moto. This guy, I love this game. So many great tracks. You're riding jet powered jet skis, if you will. You have swamp tracks, water tracks, snow, things like that. Jungle, woods. You can get You have different sponsors like Mountain Dew is in there. You're punching people, kind of like Road Rash. You can knock people off their things. But I love the tracks. They're usually about 4 to 5 laps, depending on. Just loved it. And you're racing through circuits. Start off a lower circuit. You move your way up. Great game. I have a tie at number 1. Tomb Raider, Resident Evil. They're both, the beginning of great franchises. It's hard to decide which one I like better. I think they both have, they're both similar play style. They're both story driven, and it's hard to pick between. We got Lara Croft, you got Claire Redfield, and Stars, and Jill Valentine. All those, you got some great characters. in both of these, so it's hard to pick. And like I said, they both have great gameplay. They started off franchises that we've gotten movies, TV shows, things like that, video or character or action figures. So it's hard to decide between these two, but I love them both. And so they both come in at tops. Can't beat those. We had a lot of people chiming in yesterday on the Facebook page, saying what their tops ones. We had Spyro, Silent Hill. Silent Hill was one of my also favorites. One of the hardest parts for me was the piano. If you guys played Silent Hill, there was a piano thing. Took me forever to figure that out. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Xena was my wife's, one of Lorena's favorite games. Final Fantasy, that's usually the tops in a lot of people's. Need for Speed, pretty much Fast and the Furious before Fast and the Furious. No list would be complete without Jeopardy being anywhere in there. You have Spider-Man. This is one of the best Spider-Man games. I know we've got lots of great on PS4 and PS5 right now, but man, I loved this Spider-Man game. Obviously Sony and before, I think Sony had it at this time, but it was made by Activision. Activision was the game, but Sony owns Spider-Man. Madden 2000, NFL Game Day, another 989 Sports. It was pretty good. Obviously not as good as Madden, but I did like the gameplay a little bit better on PlayStation than Madden. I love Madden, or I should say PS1. I do love Madden as it went on to PS3, PS4, and PS5. Legend of Dragoon. Somebody brought that one up yesterday. A friend of mine brought that up yesterday. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go look at it. And then we had Pac-Man World. It was kind of, it wasn't like Pac-Man, and it wasn't like the cartoon. But you do go around, and you have an awesome storyline for Pac-Man World. So that is my PS1 top 10. Next, we're going to go back in time a little bit. This was one of the very first video games that my family got. It was given to us Christmas by a friend of ours. It's called the APF Imagination Machine. The APF Imagination Machine. You can go look it up on Wikipedia, and I think there's some I think there's some for sale on eBay. You can come in and say hi. I think there's some. So I'm going to go look for this one. This was one my parents enjoyed. It had horrible graphics though. But there was Hangman, there was Tic-Tac-Toe, bowling, lots of great ones on there. So I'll be talking about that next week. I'll even show you some of the games that came out with it. So it was really cool. But we'll be talking about that. And this is good. This takes me back through memory lane for this one. So it's going to be fun. So other than that, that is our top 10 PS1 games. I hope you enjoyed it. If I missed any of your favorites, please feel free to post your favorites in the comments. And like I said, Friday we will be back with it'll be Midday Dash. We'll be going on in the afternoon, just around a little noon time, somewhere around there, noon 30. I haven't decided yet. We got homeschooling starting tomorrow. The girls back to school. So other than that, I hope you guys have a great Wednesday. If your kids are back in, I wish them well, and I hope they're safe, and we'll see you on Friday.